Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. For listeners who heard our bonus pod last week or 5 minutes ago for me and our guest, we are now doing a long-form interview. I haven't chatted with our guest prior to today since 2016. I'm a big fan of his commentary in particular. He's also a Chessable author, a trainer, a 3-time Norwegian champion, and I am pleased to welcome back to the program Grandmaster Ludvig. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so moments ago, you did your analysis of the World Championship match some time ago for people listening. But I also wanted to talk a little big picture about your work with TakeTakeTake, because this app seemingly came out of nowhere. For listeners not familiar, Magnus Carlsen and some partners have launched an app that basically the main idea, as far as I can tell, is to be able to follow games in real time in an accessible manner on your phone, which was needed in the chess world for sure, as people like FIDE and Anish Giri had unknowingly tweeted about. But you guys also are doing awesome media coverage. You and the team are broadcasting every day from a nice studio in Norway. And of course, Magnus and Levy are doing daily conversational recaps. And I heard your interview with Sjakksnak about a month prior to when we're recording here in early December. And it was already in the works then that you were going to be broadcasting. But I'm curious what the history of your relationship with TakeTakeTake is.
It depends on how far back you want to go, because
let's go to the beginning.
This company is founded by people who are, big players in the Norwegian chess scene. So if you want to go all the way to beginning, these are people I've known for a decade, if not more, at this point. In the TakeTakeTake studio now, I'm reunited with my former host in the Norwegian TV2 broadcasts, Kaja Snare. And she also then went on to do other sports stuff before she returned to chess. And then she was in Play Magnus, and she was host of the Champions Chess Tour broadcasts. And after the merger, she ended up in chess.com. And now she's in TakeTakeTake with which is the attempt to bring to the stage a bit more cell phone friendly viewing, casual viewing, I would say, of chess tournaments. I myself I'm just a freelancer,
right?
But I have now in doing commentary for them, I guess I have some insights into what it is they're trying to do.
Yeah, which I'd like to dig into. And for listeners who haven't seen the broadcast, it's a unique presentation. You've got Kaja there on the laptop, and then you have a nice wooden chess set where you go through the moves. And your co-host, Dronning Maud, did I say her name correctly?
Dronning Maud. It means Queen Maud. Queen Maud.
Okay.
Maud Rødsmoen.
Yeah.
She's a women's FIDE master from Norway. She's my co-commentator on the Norwegian TV broadcasts. And she's been brought in to basically distill what I'm saying on our YouTube channel into good, digestible, short text comments in the app.
Yeah, which are great. Yeah, so for listeners, when you play through the moves on the app, which since these games are starting at 4 a.m. New York time, when I wake up, the first thing I do now is check the app and play through the moves from the beginning. There's little comments about every move that are really geared, I'd say, for like a 1,000 player. I mean, they're really very basic, but they do a good job setting the scene. And back to the studio. So have you ever seen these NPR concerts, Tiny Desk, where these like famous rock bands play in this little room with acoustic instruments?
I'm familiar with the BBC Live Lounge. What you describe seems similar, if somewhat smaller.
Okay. That's the vibe I get from you guys' studio. Very sort of comfortable presentation, home-like presentation, but also very, very well done and well thought out. So you, as you mentioned, brought on as a freelancer, but did you have any, and I know you're very interested in like how chess should be presented. Did you have any say or input in how this studio is set up?
No. This is all Kaja, but Kaja has a big background in TV. And so what the CEO of the company said when I came to visit and check out the studio is like, he said, yeah, the studio is a lot nicer than what we were originally planning, but that's what happens when you hire a pro.
Right. That's great. That's good to hear. And you mentioned when we were chatting briefly before we recorded, so you did a big podcast with the Chess Dojo guys about the eternal engine eval debate, and you mentioned that you're doing this one without an eval bar. How do you feel about that?
I think it's difficult. It's definitely challenging sitting there just trying to get into the minds of the players, trying to think about what would I do if I was in this situation. And because you're not under the competitive stress, you're not even close to be able to perform to your own proper level. Never mind the level of the players who's sitting there making the moves. So I'm doing it chess dojo style. I'm doing it without seeing the moves suggested by the chess engines. I'm uncomfortable,
Right. I don't blame
but
you.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. You know, Chess Reddit, of course, has some fierce critics, and I've seen mostly praise for your work. So, uh, what more can you hope for? And these recaps by Magnus and Levy are super interesting too. And you guys are splicing some into the coverage as well. Have you been checking those out?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I think I genuinely think Magnus is one of the most nuanced, but also knowledgeable, but also opinionated
Yeah.
about the chess at the very top level. And I find it really, really interesting to hear what he has to say. And well, I guess this depends on the listener, but at my level, I find there to be some very like small tidbits that I find like, I hadn't considered this, but this might this might this might change my perspective on chess, just a little bit, getting that extra little detail about what to consider. So I find Magnus a very, very good listen.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I feel like the format suits him. Obviously, in the Chess 24 days in particular, he would beam in for the broadcast with some frequency, and it was fascinating, of course, to hear the world champion talk. But he's so good at chess that I felt like the move by move analysis wasn't necessarily his strongest suit because he doesn't like he just knows too much. It's just hard for him to dumb down things in a move by move format. But in a big picture format, as you say, drawing on the experience that only he has, and of course Levy and Kaja both being excellent people to play off of, I've found it to be like basically the perfect format to hear his thoughts and stuff like you mentioned. You pick up little nuances, like you mentioned in our prior conversation about the game so far in the World Championship so far from when we're recording here after Game 6. You mentioned that the French exchange game was a bit of a dud in your mind, not the most testing opening. But Magnus was geeking out, like he loved that early queen trade line and found that very interesting. And that's the sort of like top level thing you wouldn't see from anyone else. These little nuances.
Yeah, to be honest, I hadn't I hadn't caught that
Oh, you
Magnus
missed that
actually
one.
liked that opening.
It's worth checking out, actually. Yeah, it's worth going back and watching, because I don't remember the particular details either. But he felt like he gave that line more credit than you
Yeah.
did.
Because what I said in the bonus pod was that I thought that was the only game where the opening kind of didn't live up to to being like super exciting.
Yeah, but then
But normally we're used to almost half the World Championship games being pretty cautious from both players, or maybe that was just a thing in Magnus's matches.
yeah, as you alluded to in our prior conversation. But in any event, we shouldn't talk too much about the nuts and bolts of the match, because so much will have happened by the time that people hear this. So you mentioned you know the team behind Take. Like, so do you know what other events they are planning to cover? Because obviously the app seems to be the main thing, but are they going to be doing a lot of broadcasts? Do you know?
I don't know how many broadcasts there will be. I know that they have big stuff planned for the World Blitz and Rapid
Okay,
Championship
great.
at the end of the month. And well, they have partners, for instance, Magnus, who's one of the favorites, Hikaru,
Right.
who's going to be exciting to follow, and Levy lives in New York.
Yeah.
So they have this amazing triangle of interest points that are all partnered with the app, and that will all try and help. Have the focus of the app, but at the same time also maybe bring something extra to the app.
Yeah. Oh man, that's exciting. Yeah. Do you happen to know? I know you mentioned on Sjakksnak, it doesn't sound like you'll be going. Will you be involved in the coverage at all back in
I'm
Oslo?
doing commentary on Hikaru's channel.
Oh, great. Okay. Excellent.
So that's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be some late evenings for
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
Europeans, but that's a fair payback after we've deprived you Americans of a world championship match.
Yeah, that's the beauty and the curse of chess. Such a global sport that someone's always suffering time zone wise. And last time we chatted, way back in 2016, we talked a little about the chess boom in Norway. Obviously, tons of stuff has happened since then. But I know you've been involved in the national broadcasts. Are you still doing some of that as well?
My biggest job, almost a full-time job, is doing the TV2. So we're like a commercial channel. We're not the big NRK, the state broadcaster who have they secured the rights to Magnus's World Championships. They also had the rights to the World Blitz and Rapid in December, of which we are incredibly jealous,
Right.
and we would very much like the rights to that championship, which kind of speaks to chess's standing in Norway right now. That there's a fight between different entities who all want the right to broadcast the World Blitz and Rapid Championship. But TV2 has been doing the Champions Chess Tour. And a funny story I like to tell for the pandemic. The pandemic shut down a lot of the sport internationally. And at one point, chess was the most important sports right, broadcasting right in the TV2 system, because the only thing that was still going
Right.
was chess, because that could be played online without being, on site, which was very favorable during the early days of the pandemic, and Faroese football. Because the Faroe Islands are pretty isolated, so they just kept on running their things. And TV2, they were broadcasting the Faroese soccer league and the Champions Chess Tour, or what became the Champions Chess Tour.
Okay. So you mentioned that NRK has the rights, but you guys will still be covering it. So what are the does that practically mean that you just don't have a camera feed and you're still able to go
No,
over the
TV2
moves?
is not covering it. So
Okay.
I'll be doing commentary for Hikaru.
Ah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, and you did say that. But with the current match, like that's when you guys don't have a camera feed. Is that something where the rights weren't acquired?
Yes. So in the TakeTakeTake channel, we don't have cameras because we haven't. Well, they hadn't negotiated that with FIDE. But I'm happy to say that they will have cameras for the World Blitz and Rapid.
Okay.
And frankly, that's a lot more important during the really quick time controls.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the only time that I really, well, there's the Ding Chillin meme, of course, but other than that, the only time that I need a camera is like when he lost on time. Moments like that, you want to see their face, but obviously, dating again back to the Chess 24 days, like there's been there are a lot of compelling broadcasts where the feed of the players is secondary. But zooming out to Norway generally again, so obviously you mentioned there's huge interest in the World Rapid and Blitz, which Magnus in yesterday's recap was off at a training camp. So good to see that he's taking it seriously in his semi-retirement. Has interest in these big events waned at all with Magnus? Like, for example, not being in the World Championship now?
The World Championship right now is not getting attention in Norway. You can say that chess is popular in Norway, but in many ways, it's also Magnus is popular in Norway.
Right.
Norway really likes other Norwegians winning internationally, whether it be skiing or, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, ski jumping. There's a lot of skiing involved
naturally
in our Olympic gold medals. But now, we have some good soccer players these days. And we've got some one good tennis player, one good golf player, those people who excel internationally do get quite a bit of attention in Norway. We love being visible on the world stage.
Of course, it's a small country. Remind me, I know both of these, but remind me the tennis and the golf stars.
Kasper Ruud is the tennis player, and Victor Hovland.
Yeah, so both like top 10 in the world. That's amazing, right? I mean,
they're good.
Yeah, and how does Magnus's fame compare to people like Kasper Ruud and Victor Hovland?
Magnus's fame is bigger.
Unreal. Wow.
But also he is the number one.
Yeah.
And in greatest of all time debate.
Yeah.
With Gary. Really surpassing everyone else. So I do think he's at a different level, but he's in a smaller niche.
Right.
But in Norway, the niche doesn't necessarily have to matter as much, right? Because you could say that Victor is maybe, I don't know if that's true, but maybe internationally he could be on par with Magnus. But within Norway, I would say Magnus also helped from the fact that he's older and has been a star for longer. Is a bigger name. Yeah.
And one thing I found interesting in interviewing your former trainer, Simen Agdestein, and Atle Grahn, his biographer, there seems this unique thing in Norway where there's tons of interest in chess viewing, but maybe not like a huge competitive scene. Why do you think that is?
I think the Norwegian Chess Federation has done a really bad job and has generally not been managed super well or prioritized very well in the Magnus boom era. And the reason I say that, I'm not saying it's an easy task. It's an incredibly difficult task. But Chess.com at one point came to me and said, we would like you to make content in Norwegian. And I'm like, well, almost all Norwegians speak English, and I feel like then, my content would be marginalized. If I'm going to put effort into it, I would like everyone to be able to kind of enjoy or listen. But they said, no, you know what? We want to try doing something in Norwegian, because we've looked at our paying subscribers, and other than the multi-massive 100 million people inhabitant countries, Norway is like it's performing the best on a per capita ratio. We have so many Norwegian subscribers. Please help us out and make this content. And what I derive from that is that Norwegian chess has this potential of people who play chess, maybe not competitively, but they actively play on chess.com. And we're struggling to make the transition from playing online to playing in clubs. And for instance, in the US, my impression is that it can be highly problematic, because the US is so big, so scattered, and there are really good chess communities in the US, but they're like, it's in St. Louis, it's in Charlotte, it's in Berkeley, San Francisco, to use where I started out. And there's a scene in LA and New York and so on and so forth. But if you're in South Dakota, there's a question of whether there's even any tournaments close by. And Norway, on the other hand, we're a small country. You can live in the middle of nowhere, but you're not going to have to travel more than 2 hours before you're in a major urban area, and can participate in tournaments and whatnot. And so we have completely failed at getting the hobbyists, the casual players who play, on the bus every once in a while, but we've failed at trying to get them into a real life chess scene, and that is primarily, I would say, the responsibility of the Norwegian Chess Federation. But my impression is that it has never been a big focus of to pursue. At some point, both the Norwegian and the Danish Chess Federation was spending a lot of money to develop an online play zone where they wanted to like have tournaments or something in a. It's unclear to me, but a lot of money was spent, especially I think in the Danish Federation. And it's like, okay, I realize chess.com is a commercial actor, but you've got to see the benefit of not spending your own money and then rather partnering with someone who specializes in this and asking them if they can customize some features if that's what you're looking for. So there's a big issue with combining the real life and the internet players and merging them and having them know each other and benefit from each other. That has failed in my opinion.
That's a bummer. And as you say, because it's a smaller country, I do feel like something like leagues. I always feel like in the US, that's one thing that I'm always lamenting is missing. Like you hear about like the 4NCL in Great Britain and all the Dutch leagues and the Bundesliga and so on and so forth. They can travel, and then there's a real sense of community, and you feel much more connected. And I think your chess hobby is much more likely to sustain. The U.S. is so spread out that things are more micro, but in Norway, it does seem like if someone could set something up, it could thrive.
Yeah, and we have a Norwegian chess league, and it has 5 tiers. And the 5th tier obviously is not expert players. It's like you say, community and getting together and traveling together to a team match, a weekend, and hanging out, but also competing and cheering each other's on because it is in your own best interest. So yeah, there's something there that hasn't really. I'm not saying it's easy,
Right.
but my concern is that it hasn't properly been explored.
Yeah. And I feel like the clock is ticking with the Magnus boom in Norway. I mean, obviously, chess generally is on a good trajectory, and the TakeTakeTake app is particularly exciting. But yeah, I mean, he's himself says he's not going to be playing forever. So um, hopefully, it'll happen soon. And obviously, I know you're interested generally in the like how best to promote chess. And you've talked about this with Daniel Lona, with the dojo guys as well. Do you have any new ideas or any other suggestions you would like to vent on this forum before we move on to your course and chess improvement?
Um, I no, I think. I think we're doing pretty good. I know that chess.com is very excited for the upcoming year. Um, the focus of chess fans has shifted a bit into a more negative direction.
Yeah.
So we're not talking as much anymore about recruitment and how to welcome people. I think it well, in negative direction, it is good that we're having some discussions about how girls are being met and maybe treated within the community. So even though that's a negative discussion, it is a necessary one
Yeah.
to try and improve the culture. But beyond that, it has been a lot of cheating
Yeah.
lately. And that has dominated the conversation. It has, it's exhausting both to listen to, be in the middle of, but also it's like chess and, well, anything is really dependent on having ex- um, local resources, people who have initiative and passion and want to create something. If even if it's only like a school team, it starts in the grassroots. And I guess I'm concerned that where we are putting the focus, um, the mainstream chess focus now being so much into cheating that these grassroots resources are going to be like, oh well, chess is to exhaust them, right? And talk too much about the negatives rather than what can be achieved with chess. We have to mention like the chess in slums in
Yeah.
Nigeria, right? That's a great
Amazing initiative. Yeah.
great project there. And I remember watching these movies from New York about the Brooklyn
Castle.
Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these stories of empowering kids to make them realize that they're smarter than they knew, or whatever. Like chess has a lot of things where it can be a force for good, but right now it feels to me like we're focusing a lot on cheating accusations without really having basis for it. And I mean, I am absolutely certain that very, very many of the people that, for instance, Vladimir Kramnik has accused is not cheating at all. I think right now the problem has maybe gone from being undercommunicated to being way, way exaggerated.
Yeah.
And the problem with that also is that when everyone thinks everyone else is cheating, then they start cheating themselves.
Yeah.
And we had Ian Nepomniatchtchi, the two-time world championship challenger. The guy, I saw a translated thing he did where he said that he had cheated with a chess engine against Niemann just to test kind of whether he would win then. And then because he was only slightly better, he took that as proof as, oh, Niemann is definitely cheating because here I'm cheating and I'm not easily winning. And how did that not get more attention
Wow, I missed
in
that.
like chess circles? Because it's like, that is just because Nepo is one of the guys who's so skeptical of everyone else, and then he comes out and says that he actually tested trying to turn on the engine and play with its recommendations, and it's like, so you were projecting all this time, right? You're just assuming everyone else is doing it because even you got tempted to. And it was some kind of just random blitz games online. But are we really there that we're making a distinction between competitive games and non-competitive games? Yeah, chess is not doing great in the yeah. And I was going to say chess is not doing great in the PR department, but then the reality is that these kind of cheating conversations, that's what that got mainstream attention. And now we're having, movie projects, both documentaries and fiction, on cheating in chess. And I don't know if that's the direction we want to go in. Imagine going from the Queen's Gambit, this, fantastic story about a girl from rough means who managed to wow the world and so on, if somewhat the backstory wasn't entirely clean. I'm not saying that, but it was in many ways a positive story, to going now about stories where it's cheating is the main element. I'm not super happy.
Yeah, no, you raise a lot of good points. And just one thing I wanted to mention, because I got an email from an amateur player saying that, and I apologize, I don't remember his name offhand, but saying that, because I've been talking about it a lot lately too. I try not to be like, I'm not like a clickbait type podcast, but at the same time, when it's coming up in every conversation and when the Kramnik-Naroditsky thing like just won't go away, week after week after week, eventually I feel like things need to be discussed. But I got this guy was saying that even at the amateur level, just the number of like refunded rating points and stuff can be disheartening. My personal opinion is like that's not going to go away. Like that unfortunately I think is a fact of life. But the discourse at least can be altered. And I think, and I agree with you that at the professional level, it's overemphasized.
Yeah, discourse is a good word. But yeah, at the same time, and I feel kind of bad for having this opinion, but at the same time, I do think that the people who get some suspicion against them, they need to play the World Blitz and Rapid.
Yeah.
They need to show up in person and say, what are you talking about? I am this good. This is my level. And I saw last year, Denis Lazovic. He showed up to the World Blitz and Rapid, and he caught a top 10 placement.
Right.
You can't argue against the top 10 placement in the World Blitz and Rapid, because that's a volatile tournament. If you have one bad day, then even Magnus can be number 10. Yeah, I guess in particular, I think Jose Martinez
Yeah.
He needs to play the World Blitz and Rapid. And frankly, the number of Title Tuesday he's been winning, like he could make a profit. Getting a prize in the World Blitz and Rapid is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And in a way, you have a lot to lose, because if you don't get a prize, then both you're potentially losing money, being New York being so expensive, in at least this year. But at some point, you got to invest the money you won off these online tournaments, and you got to show up, and you got to show everyone that you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is me. This is my level. This is my skill. And I can perform online, as I've done many times before, but I'll come and show up and perform in person if that's what it takes. And yeah, well, the example with the Lasavik, who I believe has gotten quite a bit of attention for his online results. I think everyone accusing him, their argument completely loses any merit once he has a top 10 placement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame, though, that he's not someone like Jose Martinez is not innocent until proven guilty. Like, he already did the Clash of Claims thing. You know, to my mind, it was good enough showing. Yeah, but as you say, like, he could even crowdfund it. Like, he could turn it into an event. Like, I would pitch in for him to come and, my personal opinion is he's not cheating, but I'd love to see it either way. So have you seen who's registered?
No, but I imagine that should be possible to find out.
We briefly paused to see if we could find a list of registered players, but unfortunately, as we record here on December 3rd, I don't think it's online yet. But yeah, it would be great to see players like that in action, even if it's not fair to repeatedly accuse them. But let's shift gears, Ian Ludvig, and discuss some chess improvement. So I know you did a lot of coaching back in the PogChamp era of some well-known gamers. And I know you've done some collabs with the Botezes, who obviously are strong amateurs. But do you do much training on a day-to-day basis? Do you work with any students or classes?
No, I don't coach. Well, okay. I only coach the people for whom I'm doing commentary.
Right.
Well, one of my goals for my commentary, both on Norwegian television and for Hikaru's viewers, for the Botez's viewers, for Anna Kemling's viewers, is to be entertaining, sure, but also help understand what's going on within the minds of the players, and that has been a focus of trying to explain really what's going on. And having now done commentary with TV2, I had my 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
In early February of this year, and so I feel like I'm better qualified to try and teach upcoming players, budding players, than many others through that experience and through the general broadcast element of presenting.
And what have you learned? Like, what have been the biggest adjustments for you in terms of, like, because I've noticed also that you're very good at explaining things, like, you don't use chess terminology without explaining it and stuff like that. What surprised you as you delved, as someone who was like a youth champion and started at a very young age, as you started to work with more adult learners? What caught you off guard?
Well, there's the thing, because I don't do one-on-one lessons, because I'm primarily a broadcaster, a commentator. I don't necessarily get the feedback and get to go join a conversation with the listener what was it you found difficult here? And one of the things that I've appreciated the most when I've been approached by people just on the street coming up and being like, oh, yeah, no, oh, you're doing the chess broadcasts on TV too. I listen to that and I feel like I understand what's going on. That's fantastic. And that makes me so happy. But then I ask them some control questions. They haven't really understood that much after all. So it's a very it's tricky business. But if someone manages to feel like they understand, that's good for confidence, and then just the fact that they're wanting to consume chess content is in itself, I think, is going to help them improve, because that means they have an interest in it.
Yeah. Well, here in the US, like an interesting corollary might be American football. I feel like out of all the sports, it's the most complicated, like in terms of like, there's 11 players for each side on the team, and the routes that the players run are very intricate. There's different rules about like which players are eligible to have the ball thrown to. And so you would think like, oh, this is too complicated. There's no way people would follow, but it's the most popular sport by far here in the US, just because the pace, there's something about the pace that makes it compelling to viewers, which makes me wonder, as someone so involved in the presentation of chess, where you come down on pace.
Ben, I lived in the US.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen a football game, or
that's
at least
true. Yeah, that was too much of an explainer for you.
And you can call it the pace of the game, but like that pace only lasts for 5 seconds, and then there's another commercial break.
That's true. Yeah.
The fascinating thing about a lot of American sports is that how the commercial breaks are baked into how the sport needs to kind of reset for a new play.
Right.
Which is why soccer is in some ways very foreign, because going 45 minutes without having a commercial break is so unthinkable in very many other of the kind of specialized American sports. You were saying about pace in a chess broadcast.
Yeah, like where do you come down on classical chess as someone who's spending currently, 8 hours a day broadcasting events?
It would be nice if it was a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Having the players think for 30, 40 minutes so far in the World Championship match going on as we record, but also I guess as this is getting broadcasted, they're spending 30 minutes on a move in every game.
Yeah.
No exceptions. And that is a tricky time to fill. And what Norwegian television has done is that in some ways you treat it just as much as you treat it sometimes like a talk show.
Yeah.
In addition to being like a chess thing, because in those with the low frequency of moves, you got to fill airtime, and then having an engaging conversation about something related to chess can be just as good as talking about the chess game itself.
Yeah, I know that the chess.com will frequently have, prominent guests maybe join the broadcast. St. Louis Chess Club does this as well. Have you guys talked about that at all for TakeTakeTake?
We had Anna Kamling in the studio yesterday, but that wasn't really a visit. She just became a part of our panel. We had Hikaru Nakamura come on for an hour.
Oh, wow, I missed that.
During one of the games, which was really, really interesting to hear his thoughts. That was game 3, the one Ding-Gukesh managed to trap Ding's bishop and win. So we definitely use elements of that, and sometimes both from that studio setting, but also when I'm doing commentary on Twitch channels and stuff like that. Sometimes I will just talk about whatever comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's about people being entertained And especially when you're on Twitch channels, engaging with chat, but also messing around with chat and responding to some of chat's opinions, whether it be what's going to happen next in the game, or politics, or thoughts on the latest thing that has happened somewhere. It can be a nice kind of just distraction from the chess, because as long as you're true to the chess moves as they happen, chess's problem of having 10-20 minutes without any moves coming in can be solved in very many different ways, and that includes not doing chess at all. It's not the most common of opinions or methods, but I think it is kind of born out of the initial success on Norwegian television, in which the state broadcaster NRK wanting to include, they have like 1 million viewers often on their channel in a country of 5.5 million. That is incredible. But that also means that they really have to appeal to a very, very wide variety of people. And that's maybe part of the reason why their broadcast has many things in common in just with a talk show.
So do they have people like popping in for guest segments and stuff like that?
Yes. And they also have like people who are just guests throughout the broadcast, but who are, not chess players themselves, but maybe someone is promoting something, or they have a relationship with chess that's interesting to explore, and that kind of thing.
Interesting.
It becomes very difficult to describe to someone who's used to watching chess.com broadcasts, right? Because then it's just chess, ads,
right?
chess.
Yeah. Well, as an old school chess fan, I was always a big fan of the Svidler and Gustafsson broadcasts, where like they might forget there's a chess game going on at some point.
I mean, I love Svidler. I think he's amazing. He's a, you can hear him talk about subjects he knows stuff about for hours.
Yeah.
But then he will also rattle off 15 moves in 10 seconds. And so maybe what I'm saying is that we're Norwegian chess broadcasting in many ways do relate to Svidler, one of the big OGs, but maybe more so with him talking about cricket and whatnot,
right?
Than him being a top 10 player in the world and calculating at incredible speeds.
That's interesting. Yeah, try to have the best of both worlds. Well, let's talk about, speaking of presenting to a wide audience. So your Chessable course, I checked it out and I was surprised, 800 to 1300 level. Like, it's not, there's only a couple grandmasters gearing courses towards that level. And you did a great job simplifying concepts. So first of all, I'm curious how you came up with 1e6 against everything.
1e6 against everything is the name of a competing course. My course is
but that's the concept.
It's the concept. My course is called Hammer's My First Opening Repertoire. I don't remember exactly what it's called.
My First Opening Repertoire for Black. But go on, sorry.
Yeah. I was sitting at the chess pub in Oslo with a friend of mine who doesn't really play chess. And she asked, if you're just going to teach me one opening, what are you going to teach me? What should I do? And I was like, well, if you just put 2 pawns in the middle and then get your knight and bishop out, castle your king, and then get your bishop out on the other side. And so basically this whole concept that the repertoire is based on, I guess in particular in other moves than the king pawn openings, but it's basically just following the opening principles and learning the opening principles, not by me saying this is how you're going to play, but by having to make the moves. And then at some point, you're going to maybe realize that what I've done in the first 10 moves is put my pawns in the center, develop my king side, castle king side, develop my queen side, and then push the c pawn to get some extra influence in the center. And it's really remarkable how well this setup works. And you can even do it with the white pieces, but that's a different story and a more unambitious one at that. So I think that's when I kind of came up with it just on the fly. And then later on, like you mentioned, with the Pog Champs tournament, the streamer tournament chess.com organized, I was in contact with the manager and father of Mr. Savage, one of the greatest Fortnite players at that time. And Mr. Savage, he was Norwegian. He actually grew up less than 100 meters from where I grew up.
Oh, crazy.
Small country, usually. But at any case, this Mr. Savage kid, he played Fortnite together with Benji from the Great Britain. And Benji, he had watched the Queen's Gambit, and he got really interested in the game. He was playing on his own. But then his mom, I think, had spoken to Mr. Savage's dad, and they had been talking that, oh, yeah, no, Benji's really getting into chess. And, oh, yeah, we're talking to this Norwegian chess player. Maybe we can connect the two of them to do something together. And it ended up that I coached Benji 1 hour every single day for a month and a half. We just sat aside 10 p.m. every day, which was, maybe crazy scheduling, but that it worked for me because I was working during the day, and it worked for him because these gamers they're playing long into the night. And Benji just improved massively during that PogChamps tournament, and he got through to, I think he got into the semifinal, and he really became infatuated with chess, and this opening concept then is what I taught him as a solid way of playing with black. And this Chessable course is in many ways just my experience with Benji Fishy, coaching him, seeing him go from 800 to 1600 in chess.com Rapid. And this opening repertoire was part of it. And I think there is an internal logic to the choices I made for what to recommend. And I think it can be beneficial for other players as well. And the way I've been speaking about it is that it's not really based on winning the game out of the opening, but it's about being able to survive the opening so that the other skills that you're acquiring as a new player, your end games, your checkmate with a rook versus a king, checkmate with a queen versus a king, or a pawn end game with an extra pawn. These things are so important to improving as well. But then you want to have an opening foundation that just allows you to be like, okay, I'm gonna just play these moves. This is my plan, and then I'm gonna try to win because I'm a better player later on.
Yeah, I enjoyed your little speech in the introduction video about the importance of like it cutting off all the F7 attacks, all the max langs and everything else. Like putting myself in the shoes of like an 18, a newer player, an 800 to 1300 player, like they want to play their pet openings, It's so exciting to get in whatever gambit you have lined up against E5, which is still going to be something like, 50% of your games or something like that. So just to put people on their back foot right away with E6, I do think I wouldn't be happy if I were the player playing white and having to, like, the French is so nuanced, it's tough to navigate, and you're in Black's own territory right from the beginning, as Ding is demonstrating, even at the elite level.
Yeah. Well, my vision was to create a very plan-based opening repertoire where I explained all the moves and the reasoning behind them. And I think this was just the right time. It's not like I'm completely into only the chess details of the world. I also feel like with the merger of Chessable and chess.com, Chessable is going to get a completely new audience, where on chess.com, what I'm referring to as budding players, mostly because I don't want to call it beginners,
Right.
is the average level on chess.com. And there hasn't been that much content created for these players. And I want to be a part of that, because in order to kind of maybe steal some of the sentiment that I've heard Hikaru say a lot over the past couple of years, is that I think my biggest impact can be affecting these. Infecting, it sounds so bad, but to like instill some good opening habits in the new players, and with that raise their level, and also maybe raise their enthusiasm for chess, because frankly, people are more likely to stick with something if they feel like they're having fun and having success with it. And well, from my experience, winning is fun.
Yeah, yeah. Even if you're not winning out of the opening, surviving the opening with Black is a win.
Yeah, but at the same time, like at a certain level, if you know the opening and your opponent doesn't, you're gonna get so many free wins.
Yeah,
And a lot of I've gotten some really amazing reviews, so which I'm so happy about. But some of the feedback has also been like, oh, why are you saying 800 to 1300? I'm rated higher than that, and I found this really useful. But 800 to 1300, it's an estimation.
yeah.
One of the reasons that I would struggle with a course like this is because it's difficult to put yourself in the mind of the player, which is just at a level that I try to connect with, but there are certain things where I just don't understand that this is what they're thinking and this is what they need the answer to.
Right.
And so 800 to 1300, that's like my estimation.
Okay.
It can be useful above that. It can be useful below that. But I'm very happy with what I've made. Is it perfect? No, not at all. But I think it's pretty good. And I'm really excited to see how it's welcomed, as chess.com is currently working on integrating Chessable within the chess.com ecosystem, where I'm hoping, well, the dream is that there will be some stat about the popularity of an opening. You know how the London has become so incredibly popular. Everyone is recommending it for the white pieces. And frankly, it's kind of good. And it was played in the World Championship, Game 6. I would love to see the French having like an uptick in being played at some of the lower levels. That would be amazing.
I mean, even though obviously it's a different game at the World Championship level, like I do think it matters when Ding keeps trotting it out with black. We'll see what happens in the second half of the match, but I do think that stuff does filter down. I mean, it certainly always impacts the trends, like when Magnus played the Sveshnikov a few years back, and the growth of the Catalan, which I don't enjoy playing against. But anyway, this has been a lot of fun. So do you know, obviously you just, this Chessable course is quite new, My First Opening Repertoire for black. Do you, beyond covering, collabing with Hikaru, covering his World Rapid and Blitz, which should be a lot of fun, what else, do you have anything else like firmly on your calendar?
I'm working on another Chessable course. I don't know. I find these Chessable courses really difficult to make, especially I'm pretty perfectionistic in my approach, which can really be difficult because sometimes you don't manage to get it just the way you want it. But I guess between commentary gigs, I can often have a couple of weeks off. And I find that trying to create good Chessable courses is quite a constructive way of filling those weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm working on my Chessable course. I'm doing commentary on the Champions Chess Tour at the very soon. It's going to be right after the World Championship match. We have the Champions Chess Tour finals in Oslo with Magnus headlining, of course.
Wow.
Then Hikaru commentary for the World Blitz and Rapid. And then there's not necessarily so many firm plans going into 2025. But I do hope that I will have some kind of job related to the freestyle chess tour, or I'm not sure what their official name is, but it seems like that's going to be a major new addition to the chess calendar. They have planned 5 events through 2025 playing. Well, they're calling it freestyle chess, but it's Fischer Random. It's Chess 960. It's
I don't care which one we name it. We just have to pick one and outlaw the others.
Stick with it.
Yeah. But do you like Fischer Random? Chess 960, freestyle, whatever.
I like Chess 960, number one. I think that's my favorite.
I prefer,
I'm a fan of descriptive.
Yeah.
So also in my commentary, I try to be very descriptive in what I'm saying. And Chess 960 hits the spot for me in terms of there's 960 different ways of shuffling the pieces a lot. I think it makes it easier to explain, much easier than Fischer Random. Fischer is this world champion back in the day, and he invented a game where he would randomly. It becomes a bit longer.
Yeah.
Storytelling in it. That being said, they're not really playing Chess 960, are they? They're playing Chess 959.
Yeah, I knew.
Which is kind of pissing me off.
Right.
I think the original starting position should be in it, but then they think it goes against the purpose. But that's part of the game, right? If they draw the initial position, so be it.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll live, just play like one E3 to your point from earlier or something, and you'll get some sort of game. All right, well, Ludvig, I know you've been super busy lately. 5 hours on the grind every day talking, so appreciate your taking the time here on your off day.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here, Ben, and I hope I didn't babble too much.
You babbled just the right amount.